As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Review-A-SMACKDOwn. 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 Review-A-SMACKDOwn.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Review-A-SMACKDOwn. I'm John Pollock. He is Wai Ting. And we are going to chat about all the action that went down on Tuesday night from the Key Arena in Seattle, Washington.
The Key Arena.
The former home of the Seattle Supersonics.
Oh.
Sean
Cool.
Kemp, Detlef Schrempf, my favorite combo in NBA Jam.
Right. Gary Payton.
Gary Payton, yes. Lots to discuss.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
You're in the midst of packing, and then you're off on a flight today.
Yeah.
But you didn't miss the show. You are Mr. No Days Off.
I would not miss this edition of SmackDown for anything.
This was such a monumental edition, shaping up to be one of the greatest SmackDowns of all time.
Yeah. Wow. What a week. What a week for wrestling, eh?
Some of the greatest programming they have ever delivered to us.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to go through that. We have, off the top, Daniel Bryan coming out in Seattle to start the show.
Before Daniel Bryan, we even had Michael Cole.
Yes, everyone, and I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, you morons. Michael Cole calls Raw. Well, no, because Michael Cole informed us he's going to be calling the show, quote, for the next few weeks because Tom Phillips is on assignment.
On assignment? What does that mean? What kind of assignment?
Is he filming a documentary?
Is he writing an essay?
Is he in charge of re-signing Neville? Is he dealing with... What's he doing?
I don't know. On assignment really covers a bit of everything.
The last time there was an announcement of a SmackDown announcer on assignment, he ended up in NXT after several months.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on with Tom Phillips. We will try and find out more. But this is very strange. And what a time as we are going to be building up to the Survivor Series, brand versus brand, fight to the death, where Michael Cole will navigate us on both shows. Mm-hmm. Great. Bryan was treated like a conquering hero here. Chance of yes, welcome home. Bryan's just milking it here. And then he finally settles down the Seattle crowd and goes into the matches for tonight and what's in store. And then he wants to address the actions of Sami Zayn at Hell in a Cell. And before he can explain, Zayn interrupts coming out to his regular theme, where I do have to say this. I do think the music has to change, but he does come across as that asshole at a concert. And he just comes out.
What kind of asshole? One who dances?
Dances like a dick.
What?
Yes. He comes out.
There's a problem with concerts where people don't dance enough. People are self-conscious already enough. This guy, come on.
This is one of those guys who's just wildly dancing and it doesn't care if he hits people in the midst of his dancing.
Okay, I got you.
He certainly changed his demeanor. Like, he comes across.
Oh, he does it mockingly. He does it almost as if Dolph Ziggler would do it.
And he's wearing sweatpants, too. Oh, which is a very hateable trait in public.
Oh, got it.
You don't wear sweatpants out of the house. Come on.
No, I don't.
Unless you want this kind of reaction from me.
True.
Bryan asks if this is the Sami Zayn he has known for the past 13 years. And Zayn says, I'm still a great guy. I just took ownership of my career that I had built for 15 years. And Bryan says, I get the frustration. I've been in your shoes. Zayn says they are not alike. He says, we are both gifted performers. Well, I still am. And management never believed in them. Bryan had the fans, which made him a superstar, but the people didn't uphold their end of the agreement in regards to Zayn. He would work hard. In exchange, the crowd would chant so loudly for him that it would convince management to get behind him. I'm supposed to get a push based on your reaction, was essentially what he said. And he doesn't care anymore about these people. He says that if Bryan had worked smarter and not harder, he would not have to have retired in this arena. And this led to the crowd chanting, Sami sucks. Mm-hmm. And Bryan is a once-in-a-lifetime performer. He says he was the performer of their generation. He could never reach his level all of this time. But now Bryan is the last person he would ever want to be like. He gave his body for glory and adulation, and he ended up as a housewife.
I thought the reaction to Sami's explanation last week probably wasn't as hot enough as they might have expected. So what do we do to follow up? Let's have him go after Daniel Bryan
in Seattle,
in his hometown. Great execution by Sami Zayn. Very well written, very well delivered.
And against a guy that there was no fear of a backlash that the audience would. Like, even if this had been Shane McMahon, which obviously it couldn't be given his storyline.
Wouldn't work as well.
No, I think the audience, there would have been 50-50, the audience siding with Sami. And in this case, you put Daniel Bryan, who's the most sympathetic figure possible on this show.
To any audience.
In an authoritative role.
Your hardcore fans, obviously the hometown crowd helps too, but to anybody, nobody dislikes Daniel Bryan.
Yes. So very good stuff here from Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens comes out, and he's happy that Zayn has seen the light. He says Bryan was a pathetic martyr and calls him Mr. Bella. But now he's even worse. He's a hypocrite. Bryan tells Owens that he only cares about himself, but Owens says that Bryan has now become the authority. Zayn calls him a sellout, and he thanks Owens for saving him from this. They hug as Bryan goes to leave. And Owens says walking out of the arena is the best that Bryan has these days. And Bryan then says he's going to go to the back and find some guys to punch them in the face tonight.
Both these two were just so good healing on Daniel Bryan, and this crowd absolutely bought into it. It just makes me want to see Daniel Bryan come back even more.
It's the latest program they're building up for Daniel Bryan.
He's got the whole roster. He's got a whole year set.
Oh, my God. In and out of the company.
Yeah.
My God. What this guy... It's going to be the most fascinating year for Daniel Bryan next year.
How much time? What's the countdown clock?
September. His contract's up.
Oh, wow. Less than a year.
Less than a year.
The final countdown.
Wow. It is.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's going to be quite the ride. I also really enjoy Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, just their constant embracing of one another. I mean, it's not like just two heels getting along and fist bumping. They full on like hug one another.
It's very reminiscent of obviously of Jericho and Owens, and I hope they do something different so that we're not just getting a rehash of that. But, you know, I'm very curious to see what comedy these two will provide.
Natalya and Tamina and Lana teamed up to take on Charlotte, Naomi, and Becky Lynch with Carmella on commentary. There was some rough stuff in this match. We had that Naomi flying dropkick that it's just instinctual now that they cut away from the angle to show any contact because there was none. And after the break, the heels have Naomi in their corner. Naomi dove and missed at Charlotte. I'm pretty sure she was supposed to make this hot tag because she got up and then just kicked Lana away and then made the tag. Charlotte came in, and as I'm just watching this match and just shaking my head, Charlotte drops her, extends her arms, sticks her tongue out the side of her mouth, and does this strut that is just the worst. I will bring this up every time she does this strut.
Nah, not everybody can do it. It's not as easy as... Maybe a drop kick. Maybe it's tougher than a drop
She
kick.
complicates it. Like, this is not that difficult a mannerism to incorporate, but she does all the, like, she puts her tongue out and clamps down on her tongue, and instead of strutting, it looks like she's got the shakes or something. Just looks like a woman having a seizure.
What do you want? You know, this is not natural for her to do, despite her being...
She's the natural selection.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
supposed to be natural.
Not everything's supposed to be natural, you know? Like, just because her dad can do it doesn't mean she could do it as well.
She has the figure 8.
Yeah, so what?
She is perfected.
Can you do all of your dad's movements? Can you mimic your dad?
Every single last one of them I could do.
Come on. I can't do my dad. I really can't.
Well,
it's unfair.
then you shouldn't put out a book called Second Nature because it's not second nature.
I think she clearly probably wants to be her own person, and doing struts, maybe she didn't grow up doing that stuff.
All I'm saying is Jeff Jarrett can do a strut. She could do a strut.
I don't know about that.
Watch some
I'd like to
Jackie
see-
Fargo. Get some Fargo
I'd
tapes.
like to see you strut.
Wait, it's not that difficult.
I've
do a
never
damn
seen
strut.
you strut before.
I guarantee you I won't have my tongue sticking out the side of my mouth as I do it.
Okay, let's see it. Oh, come
My
on.
dad never did a strut.
You're all talk.
I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Tamina then super kicked Becky. Naomi hit a crossbody to Tamina. And then Lana went for an O'Connor roll. Oh, wait, where was the Lana? The Lana big boot she took from Charlotte. This thing, I actually could have done a strut in between the boot and the face here. Anyway, it ended with the O'Connor roll, that Charlotte kicked out of, applied the figure 8, and Lana tapped out. This was very bad.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't great. But I was surprised that they gave Lana as much ring time as they did here. They basically let her have the entire finish, and
she was really rough in this match.
I actually expected worse. I don't think she looked all that bad, besides the boot. She was given more than I anticipated, and for the most part, I thought was convincing.
She went for a pinfall where she put like her body weight like closer to like the torso and just looked like she was lost going for a pinfall attempt.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
These are the things I was watching on my magnifying glass. Natalya then grabs a chair and gets knocked down by Charlotte, who takes the chair and chases Natalya. So we have our answer for our chairs match. That is not happening on Sunday. We're doing the chairs program on SmackDown. So they just found themselves on the wrong brand. Bryan met with Owens and Zayn backstage and says everyone in the locker room wants to punch them in the face, and he announces that they will take on Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura tonight, and then Bryan does the Nakamura pose, which was slightly better than Charlotte's Flair pose. Bryan looked like a real dork here doing this. I think everyone looks like a dork doing the Shinsuke Nakamura pose. There's a reason this man is so charismatic, because he can pull that off. Mm-hmm. Then we had Pulp Fashion, where the highlight of this was the variations of John Cena in his shirts, named after the different characters from Reservoir Dogs, including Mr. Blonde, with a shot of him as the prototype in OVW. Some fun stuff. And we also had Reservoir Road Dog on this as well. So there we had our Quentin Tarantino love. And then the Ascension are seated at a table. We had a jumping the shark joke in reference to this segment. Breeze is dressed up as Uma Thurman's character from Pulp Fiction, and then calls the cheeseburger the Royale Rumble with cheese. Connor says, it's obvious. 2B, the Bludgeon Brothers. And then Breeze collapses because he's allergic to pickles. They go to shoot him up with an adrenaline shot when Breeze awakens, and then a briefcase has been stolen. Mm-hmm. I can really see why there is a divide on these segments. Some love them. Others don't.
Well, I feel like they're definitely starting to wear thin. I mean, even more so than before. Even with the absences in between these segments, the reaction to this was really not there. So I think they'll probably continue with it for at least a little while. But I think fans are just sick of not getting any resolution to these long, drawn-out angles. They're kind of the board's cute, all the little opening
The inside
segments.
lines, they go to a point.
But, what are we building to? What is this leading to? And if you're not giving an audience a payoff because you've admitted that you are making this shit up week to week, people are just going to tune out. And,
And they called out the Bludgeon Brothers thing, so you can't even go that way.
No.
You had your out. Baron Corbin versus Sin Cara. Dream match scenario. Corbin cut a promo and asked people if he wants to make this a U.S. title match. But he says, too bad. He says the U.S. title open challenge is closed for good. And Sin Cara hit a suicide dive, snapped Corbin's neck on the top, and then hit a high cross to the floor, and Corbin just stumbled around on the floor, getting counted out in a minute 18.
Yeah, it's
upwards and onwards for Baron Corbin, who looks to have now a title match with Sin Cara coming out of this.
Oh, well, I mean,
everyone's got to keep busy on TV.
You got it. What a great way to make somebody care about a U.S. title program.
What if they did the opposite? Instead of doing a hair versus mask match, which these two could do, the skullet versus the mask, what if the loser had to either grow hair or wear a mask? A reverse hair versus mask match.
Grow hair? I don't know if Baron Corbin can.
No, I'm saying Sin Cara would have to grow hair, or Baron wears a mask.
How do you know Sin Cara doesn't have hair? Hair on top of his mask?
He'd have to grow it out. He'd have to grow a skullet.
Like cut a hole on his mask to let the hair show?
No, he'd lose the mask.
So he would lose the mask anyway?
Well, that's part of it. You'd have to make this make sense.
All right.
Reverse.
Brilliant.
You're
smart.
I feel this is better than a reverse battle royal.
Probably in some ways.
Renee was backstage with the Usos. Jay says he feels like a kid on Christmas morning, like it's his birthday. And then Shelton and Chad Gable enter in their 2K18 jackets. I feel we're going to build to a Team 2K18 versus Team Unleash Your Warrior match at the Survivor Series.
Susan G. Komen versus 2K.
Did you see?
Maybe we'll get like a payday team as well.
Did you see Chuck Taylor go all in on Johnny Gargano?
No.
So Johnny Gargano posted a photo wearing his Unleash the Warrior shirt and said, "This is my new profile pic." And Chuck Taylor responded, stating something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, that that's pretty gross. And Gargano replied saying that his stepmother or his aunt, I'm not sure who, had breast cancer, which is terrible. And it's more about what this image represents, the spirit of it all. And Taylor came back and said, "I'm sorry for your aunt. That's awful. But the Warrior represents hating gay people, and that's not cool." And
what was the response? Any?
I don't think there was. I think Gargano was realizing there's no good that can come out of this conversation for me online, and moved on. But Chuck Taylor, not wrong. Same that everyone is saying. Anyway, back to this. Gable and Benjamin tried to do their best Usos promo, stating, "We feel like we're going to wrap you up and tap you out," which would be very hard if you were wrapped up to also tap out because your arms would be tied up.
Yeah, Renee had a tough job here trying to mic all 4 participants, and unfortunately, I felt like I couldn't hear many of Shelton's lines properly. It's a bit of chaos getting all 4 people in there. The Usos, I thought, were still getting booed here, but I thought they were baby faces, but maybe, being paired with Gable and Shelton kind of confuses things for the audience.
Yeah, it feels like we're building up to a bunch of title matches for TV. And we'll get into that. Like Jinder and AJ, these guys with the tag titles, with the U.S. title, with Baron and Sin Cara. Like none of these, because you have this 4-week, you have 4 episodes until Survivor Series. And based on where things look to be going, like all these programs are going to be TV only because you're going to have these inter-promotional matches for Survivor Series.
Survivor Series, I mean, these inter-promotional shows, not everybody's going to get a spot. And I could see them not necessarily doing a tag team title match for the SmackDown titles if you have so much other stuff on the show.
Then we went out into the forest with this static filter over top. Can you lend any scientific term to this?
Some type of static filter, yes.
Where the Bludgeon brothers are out in the forest. So after 4 years, they're right back where they started with their hammers. Rowan takes off his mask, and they state back and forth, "The darkness of destruction always prevails over the futility of light. Where we go, annihilation follows." Harper, Rowan, Bludgeon brothers.
Yeah, I know. They said it in unison, too.
Maybe these guys are tremendous improvisers. I mean, to just... Huh? Imagine trying to do that just on the spot.
Oh, I can't. Yeah. Anyway, it continues to be goofy as shit. And
they murdered a cameraman at the end.
Yeah, they did.
Cameraman's on the ground and they fucking hammered him.
Yeah, that or just a really expensive camera. But it seems like they're going ahead with all this, and really... I mean, there's been already a lot of criticism about this over the past week, and this week it just seemed to dive headfirst into that same tone that we were all afraid that they were going to go into. Just kind of basically 2 guys who are just kind of over the top, like Warcraft characters, but like if you are one of these people. Okay.
Bludgeon brother?
Yeah, whatever. Like, I don't know what era they're from. I don't know what part of the world they're from. Okay, but let's buy that these people actually exist. Now, I guess, are they so self-aware that they would get their wardrobe person to write the letters BB on the back of their robes? Like, have you ever seen that in history? Like somebody... I don't know, like were Vikings writing their own initials in a cleverly designed logo on the back of their robes?
Every Viking has a seamstress.
In Game of Thrones, like, I don't watch the show, but like, I'm sure somebody wears a cape. Would they put their Their initials?
They should wear the robe that The Undertaker had when he was the Satan character in the Ministry. That would fit them, wouldn't it?
I mean, it feels like this was lifted right out of the Ministry of Darkness days. You know, they could be paired right next to Viscera and Mideon, and I don't think it'd be any different.
The big question, could Sister Abigail be Sister Bludgeon?
Why not? Throw them all together. Throw them in there with the Festival of Samhain Demon, you know? It all belongs in the same bin.
God damn. Everything Wyatt is just awful. It's just horrendous. Then we had highlights of Jinder Mahal's media tour of India last week, where, I mean, this felt like Bret Hart in the mid-'90s when they would show these videos of him going overseas and treated like a god.
Maybe the most redeeming value you'll get out of this Jinder Mahal title reign is this footage.
Yep. For these 2 shows in December that I believe the arena is set up for 8,000 people per show.
Are they taping those?
I don't think so. They're just live events.
I'm sure they'll just have a camera there.
They should show that, like Jinder's reaction just coming in. So the Singh brothers then introduced Mahal. This was cool as the Singh brothers, the former Bollywood boys, their parents were here in the front row to watch this in Seattle.
Because they're from Vancouver.
Yes. So anyway, they introduced Jinder. Byron notes he was talking to a member of the WWE PR staff who told them that it was treated like a presidential inauguration when Jinder Mahal arrived in India, which the natural follow-up was, which presidential inauguration was it treated like? Because, I mean, if this were January of 2009, gigantic audience. January of 2017, a lot less, despite what Sean Spicer might have told you. So Jinder says that he met with a young boy in India, and he listed off all of the men that Jinder has defeated and said that Jinder doesn't receive the same level of respect in the U.S. as he does in India. And Jinder said this boy was wise beyond his years. And I just love the idea of Jinder having a heart-to-heart conversation with a 10-year-old about his career and what he needs to do. So he says he must make a challenge. The crowd is chanting, "You can't wrestle." And Jinder just holds up the title like in disbelief, like, "You fools, I am the best wrestler here." He was like genuinely like caught off guard, I felt, by these chants. And he says that he must beat someone the audience thinks is unbeatable. And at Survivor Series, he is challenging Brock Lesnar to prove he is the greatest champion of all time. And this was met with the same reaction I think everyone has had. And that was it.
Yeah, the match is what it is, right?
That should be the tagline of Survivor Series this year.
It is what it is.
Houston, you have a problem.
It's fascinating to think how the match will go, what the result of the match will be, if there is a result, and how they'll promote it leading up into Survivor Series.
Paul Heyman is going to have his work cut out for him.
Brock Lesnar has his work cut out for him. They all have their work cut out for them. I predict that the Bollywood... This
is the Battle of Canada as well, on top of it.
Oh, it is.
That's a bigger title than any of these championships they're holding.
What is it? Where is he from, Alberta?
Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Jinder's from Alberta?
He was,
Alberta versus Saskatchewan. It's the prairies.
Natural rivalry,
Damn. Maybe the only main event you'll ever see from... Actually, that's not necessary. Jericho and
Stampeders, Rough Riders rivalry.
Yes. Well,
Brock wears green and Jinder in red and black. I love this idea.
Yeah.
This is way more interesting. It should happen in Alberta at McMahon Stadium.
I think it should happen in Saskatchewan somewhere. I thought, despite what you think of the match, I thought Jinder delivered the promo well. He delivered with the confidence of someone who believes that they're on equal footing with Brock Lesnar, whatever the audience, despite what the audience may think.
AJ Styles comes out. There's a big chant for him. He says, "You stated all the people that you've beaten everyone here, but you've never beaten me." And Mahal clarifies. He says, "No, I meant to say there's no worthy competition here," and calls Styles a loser. Mahal says in his country, they don't believe AJ even belongs in the same ring. Styles says, "Well, we aren't in your country," And this leads to a USA chant. You're not in your country. You're in ours. So Styles attacks him. The Sings just flee the scene, and he lands a Pele kick on Jinder Mahal. And Styles does the too sweet sign, which I imagine he'll be doing a lot more now.
Oh.
Uncensored version.
It's uncensored.
And the heels just leave up the ramp. And God, it looks like they're just going to do like one of these title matches between these two on TV.
Well, yeah, we all suspected that AJ was perhaps the next person to get the title shot against Nakamura on a pay-per-view, perhaps even at a Survivor Series. Maybe he would be the one to take the belt off of him. I suppose it's still a possibility, but I don't anticipate them doing it until after Survivor Series.
This title match.
I mean, AJ winning the belt, if he wins the belt. But, you know, because the Lesnar match is non-title, right?
Non-title.
So AJ could still be in line, and I could see them dragging this program out a little bit longer. Maybe even AJ playing into the finish of the Lesnar match. But I worry he'll, you know, at least for the next 4 weeks, feel like a real secondary challenger behind Brock.
See, I feel they're going to do it on TV with people really getting into the idea of AJ winning on TV to face Brock at Survivor Series.
That's great, too. Yeah.
But you're not delivering that.
I know.
That's not what you would want. Could you imagine? That match would be fantastic.
It would be.
That would be a tremendous match. I would have much preferred AJ comes out and says, I just lost to Baron Corbin. I have to redeem myself. I know I'm not worthy of a world title match, so I just want to take on Brock one-on-one. Sold! No one cares about the title being on the line. I would much prefer that.
That would be awesome.
Have Jinder face someone else on Raw. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You're just doing interpromotional matches. Why don't you do one that actually people could get into? Because how many opportunities are you going to have to do Lesnar and AJ?
Yeah, probably not. Not unless AJ moves to Raw next year.
So that ended that segment. Bobby Roode versus Dolph Ziggler. We had a commercial break, which was a 2K18 ad for the US viewers. Roode catapulted Ziggler into the corner. And now every time that this catapult occurs, Michael Cole is going to have to bring up Cesaro's injury. That appears to be the line to use. Roode caught him with a spinning Uranagi, got a 2 count. Glorious DDT was blocked, then he caught a super kick. Each attempted roll-ups, ending with Ziggler hooking the trunks to win. And Ziggler telling him, I told you so.
I thought these two kind of really had to prove themselves because their match at the pay-per-view wasn't all that memorable. Here, unfortunately, so much of the match took place during the commercial break that it still didn't come across all that memorable.
Even with the break, they had 4 minutes.
Well, I guess that tells you maybe what I thought. I can't say I'm that impressed with Bobby Roode right now on SmackDown.
And this is going to continue.
Yeah. Hey, before that, they announced Sunil versus AJ on SmackDown next week.
Oh, that's right. They go backstage, and Jinder was all pissed about AJ disrespecting him. And Mahal says he's going to make him pay, and then does a swerve saying Sunil will take on AJ next week. So presumably, I feel AJ is going to have to beat Sunil, then they'll do the handicap match, and then they'll get to the title match.
Right.
And this will probably, maybe they're planning some big show for Halloween night, which is, what, in 2 weeks?
I think so.
So you'd have to go through...
it's the 18th, so maybe, actually, yeah.
Halloween's in 2 weeks, which is kind of a write-off. I would not plan a big show for Halloween night.
Why?
Because no one's going to be home. You're probably going to have a baseball game and Halloween. It's like,
guess so.
Why even try?
Is Halloween typically a bad night for them?
Yeah.
Really?
Last year they did Raw on Halloween. You wouldn't know because you skipped that show. You were away.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where you were. You were somewhere.
I was gone. I was in Asia, actually.
And they had Goldberg on that show. And that's all I remember about
Didn't do that well?
It actually did better than people expected, and that was more a tribute to Goldberg and the interest level in him. I will say, if they had announced it tonight that in 2 weeks we will present a special edition Halloween Havoc, I think that would get a lot of people's interest. You seem to be building to a lot of matches that you can't pay off at Survivor Series, so why not? Anyway, this is where Michael Cole states that the Survivor Series is the one event each year where Raw and SmackDown stars can face each other. and promotes that Brock Lesnar will be on Raw Monday night in Green Bay to answer Jinder Mahal's
I
challenge.
didn't realize that was an actual...
I don't think that was an actual thing until Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah. Which is, I think, unfortunate. I think it's going to put every program on hold for a month. And it's for interpromotional. Like, literally, this is Michael Cole telling us this on SmackDown. Does that not say everything in a nutshell about this brand rivalry?
But he's not saying that every match is interpromotional, right?
Kind of alluded to it.
Every match will be interpromotional?
He said it's the one event every year where talent from each side can face one another. So that tells me more than one match.
Huh. Okay.
I think you're going to get a whole card of Raw versus SmackDown.
Then no title matches.
Presumably.
I don't know. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if they go ahead with that.
Aiden English is singing backstage, and these two gophers are ignoring him as they're looking on some guy's phone, and he gets insulted by this. The New Day comes out, playing the trombone, singing, as these two dorks danced around to the New Day. Big E called English the Gershwin of Grumpy. Kofi's wearing a Bobby Heenan t-shirt here. And then Rusev walks in and says there is no more New Day. The only thing that matters is it's Rusev Day. And he yells that Rusev Day is not a joke. And then English goes to sing the Rusev Day song, and Rusev immediately cuts him off saying, not the time. This guy's comedic timing is phenomenal.
Oh, he's so funny. So underutilized.
I really enjoy Rusev and Aiden English together.
Yeah. I could assume this to be a new tag team feud. Maybe even a singles feud down the line with Rusev versus any one of the New Day.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. Just seems like they don't have much for the New Day at this point, so they can feud with these two. Main event was Shinsuke Nakamura and Randy Orton against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Michael Cole noted this is the first time he has ever called a Shinsuke Nakamura match. And it started with Nakamura and Zayn, and Corey Graves, I think this was a reminder we didn't need. Said, go to the WWE Network to relive their first encounter. I was like, that feels like generations ago at this point, and these two are in very different places now. Orton comes in. Owens avoided an RKO and then went to the floor, and Orton sent him into the barricade. Orton got sent into the barricade with a fallaway slam. They got the advantage on Nakamura. The crowd was chanting for Randy. He comes in, suplexes Zayn. Orton then stops Zayn from the apron, teases a draping DDT to the floor, but instead drops him through the announcer's desk. Owens then makes the save inside the ring, super kicks Orton. Zayn sets up for a haluva kick, but runs into an Orton power slam for a 2 count. And then as the official is distracted with Kevin Owens, Orton is going for the draping DDT. Zayn avoids it, kicks Orton low, and this time connects with the haluva kick and pins Randy Orton. And Owens is so happy for Sami Zayn as they embrace afterwards, and giving Sami Zayn a tainted but big victory, pinning Randy Orton.
I know, yes. I thought Nakamura and Zayn were so good in there together. I almost wanted to see them actually break off into a feud, but it looks like they might do Zayn versus Orton and Nakamura Owens.
Which, if Zayn and Orton got 15 minutes on TV, I think that would be outstanding.
I think both matches would be great.
Yeah, so I like this combination of all 4 of these guys involved here, and I think you'll definitely get Orton and Zayn at least on television. Owens and Zayn are backstage with Bryan. They're gloating. Owens says they are just too good, and Zayn says they just beat the top 2 guys on SmackDown and asks what they have in store for them next week. Bryan says it isn't up to him, it's up to Shane McMahon, and he will be returning next week in Milwaukee. And then we get a shot of Orton and Nakamura, who are just standing on the floor pissed from this result. Owens and Zayn return, and they're chanting yes. They state they are the best. They just beat Orton and Nakamura. We are SmackDown Live. And Owens ends the show by stating his name and calling Sami Zayn his best friend.
His new best friend.
Which to me is the first seed in the eventual turn.
You know it's coming.
Labeling him the best friend.
Oh, you know it's got to come eventually. It seemed like they had an awkward amount of extra time at the end to fill.
Yes.
And, I mean, with the whole segment in Gorilla, I'm sure things were maybe slightly mistimed. But thank God you had Kevin Owens there, who I probably wouldn't trust anyone more on the roster to improvise and fill time. So he was great.
And Orton and Nakamura just stood in the same place this whole time.
Yeah. How do you think Shane figures into the program?
See,
Do you think he wrestles at Survivor Series?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility of that. And maybe it becomes... See, it's tough to do kind of like a six-man now if you were to link Shane with Nakamura and Orton, who they kind of positioned here to be paired with him.
They could do a traditional Survivor Series match.
Yeah, which is why I'm hoping this is not a show full of interpromotional matches, because there's a lot of stuff on SmackDown. Look at all the programs we talked about on the show that they have started and teased that this Survivor Series show would interrupt.
Yeah, I really would not like it if it was all interpromotional matches, because you're going to have issues trying to build your programs every single week. And again, like we talked about on Monday, I'm never a fan of hey, can they work together? Can the heels and baby faces work together on the same side story? And to do that, we saw it with bragging rights, and like anytime they would do things like that.
And no one cared.
Nobody cared.
They're not shows that did well.
What, do they win a trophy?
Yes.
Like, who cares, right? Like, it puts it delays all the real storylines. It gives you no resolution. So.
And I feel at minimum, they've got to do one with the men and one with the women. And that, when you think about it, like if you're doing a SmackDown team, that's going to take out a lot of guys. That probably takes out Orton and Nakamura and AJ.
I really hope that they aren't. And I would almost like question why they would, what gain.
Yeah, it's just a concept that has no connection with your audience. It's just like you yourself, the company has established that this brand rivalry doesn't exist. You can't just...
It exists.
You have the same announcers on both shows.
So
you don't have any...
But AJ Styles isn't turning up on Raw.
Yeah, you're not having the guys show up, but there's no rivalry. There's no, like... I don't think there's even, like, dream match scenarios. Like, there's nothing to that.
I mean, I think to an extent there is. AJ Styles versus, blank, Seth Rollins, whoever. You could still... you still get a moment whenever somebody shows up from one show to another. Not Kane, who I completely forgot was a SmackDown guy. But
one of us realized that.
I think everybody, like, he's been away for so long, he might as well be free agent or whatever. But it still exists to a small extent. But I don't think that they should be chasing interpromotional matches unless it makes sense.
Well, they're also not doing singles matches. Like you mentioned Styles and Rollins. It's not going to be singles matches.
Do we know that they're not doing singles matches?
You're right. We don't know that. I mean, that would be something. But again, it's interrupting programs to do these one-off matches that have nothing after it and ahead of time. I mean, to me, I don't think the audience cares all that much unless you have some dynamite idea. And based on what the main event is, I don't know if they have dynamite ideas. So we will see as Survivor Series shapes up, which, I mean, the build will start Monday after TLC. Mm-hmm. That was the show. Decent episode. I think this was largely carried by Owens and Zayn on the show. The rest of the show, to me, was kind of just, teasing a lot of stuff for the future, and it just seems like they're loading up their television for the next month or so, or maybe even saving some of this stuff for post Survivor Series till the December pay-per-view, whichever one that is for SmackDown.
4 weeks is a long time, so we'll see how they fill that.
Yes. All right. That is going to wrap things up for us on the YouTube end, but we will be back later on this week. You can also download the entire edition of Review of SmackDown up at liveaudiowrestling.com or search for Live Audio Wrestling on iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. It won't take 6. But Friday, we have Review Away. And what are we chatting about?
We are looking back at War Games, the best and the worst of War Games. 4 particular matches. We are doing the first 2 sets of matches from their initial debut in 1987 at the Great American Bash. Is that what it was?
The Great American Bash Tour,
yeah. We'll also be doing one of their matches from 1991
at Wrestle War
that was rated 5 stars by Dave Meltzer, and we'll be doing the last War Games on a WCW pay-per-view. That would be Fall Brawl 1998,
which was not 5 stars.
Some may consider the worst War Games. So.
Yes, so that will all be covered on Friday, and joining us will be Nate Milton to review all 4 matches as well. So that is coming up on Friday. We've also got Gegard Mousasi Thursday on the MMA Report. New episode of What's Next also dropping on Thursday. We just released a new British audio wrestling with Ollie Court and Striga from MLW Radio, who went to the WXW Tag League over the weekend. They went to all of the shows and have a review up, so you can check that out now and download it. And then Sunday night, The Law is coming up at midnight Eastern Time with Jason Agnew and Dan Lebransky after TLC. So we will speak with you later this week. Goodbye.